Okay, what we're going to talk about now is an amazing feature on CDJs called looping. Now, looping is something that I've always wanted to be able to do, and that was back in the day when I used to play vinyl. And it's either to help me get out of a track that hasn't really got an outro to mix with. It allows me to extend sections of records that aren't long enough, that I feel aren't long enough, or that the crowd's really loving. Or more often than not, it helps me when I run out of time on a given track. So what I'm going to do now is show you how to actually do a loop. And the section that I want you to pay attention to is around here, the loop start and the loop end. But let's start this track. I'll do one beat loop. Here we go. Now what I can do with this is I can actually shorten this loop and create an effect with it. And what I'm doing now is creating almost like a drum roll. And then to get out of the loop, I press this. And it takes me back to the loop point where I started. Now what I want to do is actually mix out of the loop. So I'm going to create another loop that I can mix out of. Four, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now it's an 8-beat loop that I've created. And you can hear right at the end it's not actually looping correctly. What I'm going to do is edit this loop like what I did before, but at a much smaller scale. So I hit the out button, which allows me to get into the edit feature. And looking at my frames per second and listening to what I'm doing, I'll adjust this by 1 frame at a time. 1 frame again. Okay, that's a bit tighter. So what I'll do now, I'll try that again, 1 more frame. That sounds better. Now, I'll put that back into loop mode instead of edit mode. And I'll mix over the top of it. And there you have it. I'm just mixing one track over a loop. So that's how you mix over top of loops. Okay, so we've spoken about looping on a CDJ, and looping on a CDJ is great, but if you really want to mix and get really accurate loops, the best way to do it is to do it with a feature called roll on the DJM mixers. Now, roll was initially invented for effects like this. Now, I'll adjust the roll by just going to fractions and going. Okay, so that's what the roll was initially invented for. But what you can do with the roll, and what a roll actually does technically, is it just repeats a section of music. So you can turn this feature into a sampler, on a loop sampler, and it's going to be much more accurate than you at creating a loop, because it knows how fast the track's going, because it's got a beat counter, and then it's dividing a number to work out how many milliseconds it's got to sample for at 128 beats per minute to create a 4-beat loop. So let's do a 4-beat loop now. And that's the 4-beat loop. And let's try to mix over the top of that. And there you have it.